The first scream cut through the grocery store parking lot like a blade, sharp and panicked. And for a split second, no one moved because disbelief is always faster than courage. Rain slicked the asphalt, headlights blurred into white streaks, and a shopping cart rolled freely until it slammed into a curb. In that frozen heartbeat, a single father named Michael Harper was already running. Because when you spend your life catching a falling child, you learn not to wait for permission. What followed would change the meaning of worth, pride, and mercy for everyone who witnessed it. Before the story carries you further, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of doing the right thing when no one expects it, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Michael lived on the edge of a small Midwestern town in the United States, in a rented duplex that smelled faintly of detergent and reheated soup. His days began before sunrise, packing lunches for his 8-year-old son Caleb, tying mismatched shoelaces, and reminding himself that exhaustion was temporary but love had to be constant. He worked 2 jobs, one at a warehouse loading trucks until his shoulders burned, and another driving deliveries in the evenings. People saw the scuffed boots, the faded jacket, the tired eyes, and they assumed his whole story fit inside a narrow box labeled nobody. Michael knew better, but knowing did not pay rent or protect him from the quiet judgments that followed him through stores and sidewalks. On that particular afternoon, Michael had just finished a delivery and stopped at the grocery store to pick up bread and milk. Caleb sat in the car, buckled and humming to himself, drawing shapes on the fogged window. Inside, Michael moved quickly, counting dollars in his head, aware of the weight of time. Near the checkout lane stood Victoria Reynolds, a woman whose tailored coat and sharp posture announced her success long before her face did. She was known around town as a rising executive in a regional real estate firm, admired and resented in equal measure. When their carts brushed by accident, her reaction was instant and dismissive, eyes scanning Michael from boots to collar as if measuring a flaw. The look was enough. Michael felt it settle on him like dust, familiar and unwanted. He apologized with a nod and stepped aside, shrinking to avoid trouble, because single fathers learn to choose peace even when pride aches. Victoria, already frustrated by a long day and a delayed meeting, rolled her eyes and let the moment harden into something cruel. She muttered a remark that landed like a stone, branding him as insignificant, a man without standing, a nobody taking up space. Michael absorbed it in silence, the way he absorbed many things, and pushed his cart forward. He had learned that survival sometimes meant swallowing words. Outside, the rain intensified, turning the parking lot into a mirror of trembling lights. Michael loaded his groceries, returned the cart, and buckled Caleb tighter, promising a warm dinner and a movie night. Across the lot, Victoria hurried toward her car, heels clicking, phone pressed to her ear as she argued with someone unseen. Her world was fast and loud, filled with schedules and demands, and it left little room for awareness. She stepped off the curb without looking, slipping on the wet paint, momentum carrying her forward into the path of an oncoming vehicle whose driver slammed the brakes too late. The impact was chaos without order. Metal screamed, bodies scattered, and the air filled with the raw sound of fear. Michael heard the scream before he understood it, and his body moved on instinct. He was across the lot in seconds, ignoring the rain soaking through his clothes, ignoring the eyes turning toward him. Victoria lay twisted near the front of the car, blood mixing with rainwater, breath coming in shallow bursts. People hovered at a distance, frozen by shock, phones raised but hands useless. Michael knelt beside her, steady despite the tremor in his chest. Years earlier, he had taken a basic first aid course when Caleb was born, driven by the terror of being the only parent responsible for a fragile life. He remembered what to do, remembered how panic could kill faster than injury. He checked her breathing, spoke calmly without needing words anyone could hear, and applied pressure where it mattered, using his jacket to slow the bleeding. He positioned her safely, kept her still, and signaled for someone to call emergency services. His voice was firm, cutting through the fog, and people listened. Victoria drifted in and out of awareness, the world narrowing to pain and rain in the presence of a man she barely recognized. In those moments, status dissolved. Titles meant nothing. All that existed was the warmth of hands keeping her tethered to life. Michael stayed with her until the sirens arrived, until paramedics took over with practiced efficiency. Only then did he step back, soaked and shaking, adrenaline draining away to leave exhaustion in its wake. An officer approached, asking questions, taking notes. Michael answered simply, glancing toward his car where Caleb watched with wide eyes. He explained, signed a statement, and declined attention. When the ambulance doors closed and the crowd dispersed, he returned to his son, heart pounding, whispering reassurance with a smile that masked fear. He drove home slowly, hands tight on the wheel, replaying the moment over and over, wondering how close life always was to breaking. News travels fast in small towns. By the next morning, the story had spread, stripped of detail and dressed in speculation. A single father had saved a prominent executive. Some called him a hero, others were surprised someone like him could be one. Michael went to work as usual, lifting boxes, ignoring the whispers, because heroism does not excuse absence when bills are due. He visited the hospital after his shift, unsure why he felt compelled, perhaps needing closure, perhaps needing to see that she lived. Victoria lay in a quiet room, pale but stable, machines humming softly. When she saw Michael, recognition sparked, followed by something like shame. He stood awkwardly, hands clasped, ready to leave if unwelcome. The nurse nodded him in. In the silence, understanding bloomed without words. Victoria's world, once measured in achievements and appearances, had cracked open to reveal the thinness of its walls. The man she had dismissed had held her life in his hands and chosen compassion without hesitation. Recovery was slow, humbling. Victoria had time to think, to replay her own words and weigh them against Michael's actions. She requested to see him again, and this time she insisted on listening. Michael spoke about Caleb, about work, about doing what anyone should do. He did not accuse or demand. His grace was quiet, and it unsettled her more than anger ever could. She began to see the invisible labor of survival, the dignity and endurance, the courage in showing up every day without applause. Weeks later, Victoria returned to work changed. She reached out to community programs, funded first aid training, and created flexible job opportunities for single parents, driven by a debt she could never fully repay. She offered Michael a position coordinating logistics for one of her developments, a role that valued his reliability and work ethic. He hesitated, wary of charity disguised as opportunity, but she insisted on fairness. Michael accepted, not as a favor, but as recognition. Life did not transform overnight. Struggles remained, but the edges softened. Michael had evenings free to help Caleb with homework, mornings that began with less dread. Victoria learned to slow down, to see people fully, to measure success by impact rather than image. Their paths crossed occasionally, marked by mutual respect and an unspoken bond forged in rain and fear. As this story nears its end, take a moment to reflect. If it touched your heart, if it reminded you that worth is not worn on the outside and that kindness can rewrite destiny, please like this video, share it, and stay with us by subscribing. Your engagement tells us these stories matter. And before the final moments fade, leave a comment below sharing one small act of kindness that changed your life or someone else's. Let this space become a place of hope. On an ordinary evening months later, Michael watched Caleb sleep, chest rising and falling, the room filled with the soft glow of a nightlight. Outside, rain tapped gently on the window, no longer a threat but a memory. Michael understood now that being a nobody in the eyes of the world did not diminish the weight of his actions. Sometimes the quietest lives carry the loudest miracles, and sometimes saving a life begins with refusing to look away.